For the final question of the month, Micah had this intriguing question. Is it possible that we would have more hand-drawn animated films if Treasure Planet, Sinbad, and others would have done better at the box office than they did? Probably. The big reasoning at the time that studios like DreamWorks and Disney shuttered their hand-drawn animation departments was because they blamed the medium for not attracting audiences. I've never agreed with that assessment, but to understand the studio's specific motivations, let's go back in time a little bit. When DreamWorks Animation started, Jeffrey Katzenberg had a specific game plan. The hand-drawn films would be adventures set in the past, while the computer-animated films would be edgy satirical comedies, although some of that trademark DreamWorks humor did find its way into The Road to El Dorado. The Prince of Egypt was a success, and for a few years was the highest-grossing non-Disney animated film. El Dorado, unfortunately, was a flop, and in retrospect, I'm not sure why it did not connect with audiences. The animation was colorful, had a high-spirited sense of humor, and even a cute armadillo. Who does not like armadillos? Then there was Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, which also did not do well. And finally, Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, was the final nail in the coffin. Sinbad had the unfortunate timing of not only competing with Finding Nemo, still bringing in crowds, but another sea adventure, Pirates of the Caribbean, was getting far more attention and interest from audiences of all ages. In between the hand-drawn films, DreamWorks released a movie starring a certain ogre. Right, that one. And it made an incredible amount of money. So I can kind of understand their point of view for thinking these snarky computer animated comedies were what the people wanted. I find Disney's excuse to be far more flimsy. They blame Treasure Planet's poor box office performance on it being hand-drawn. Yet 5 months earlier, Lilo and Stitch was a very successful movie for them. I highly doubt in 5 months audiences' taste immediately changed from supporting hand-drawn animation to rejecting it. The problem with Disney was too much executive interference in the films, resulting in a somewhat mixed bag of quality and eventual audience distrust in the brand. Sending direct-to-video animated films to the big screen did not help either, as it took away the specialness of the legitimate theatrical hand-drawn films. Of course, Disney did later attempt to revive hand-drawn animation, although I thought it was unfair resting the entire future of the medium on the Princess and the Frog's shoulders. While it was a decent-sized success, the likes of Home on the Range and Chicken Little were still fresh in people's minds, and created a stigma that Disney animation was Pixar's less cool cousin. However, the positive response to The Princess and the Frog from those who did see it, both in its original release and later on DVD, likely paved the way for Tangled to be successful, and then Wreck-It Ralph, and then Frozen, and now they're doing phenomenally well. I've often argued that The Little Mermaid was not the official start of the Disney Renaissance. It was the positive response and solid commercial performances of The Great Mouse Detective and Oliver and Company that helped turn Ariel's musical tale into a box office smash. Meanwhile, Winnie the Pooh had to deal with a different deterioration of a brand name, as prior to that movie, Disney had exclusively been marketing that bear of very little brain to the youngest of children, creating a perception that he's only appropriate for toddlers and preschoolers. I know a lot of people blame its underperformance on Disney scheduling it the same day as Harry Potter, but it opened in some international territories a few months prior to Potter, including the United Kingdom, and it did poorly in those countries too. Sadly, Disney ended up firing most of its hand-drawn animators and selling off the animation desks. Even when I thought highly of John Lasseter during those days, I've always been disappointed he did not fight harder to keep hand-drawn animation going at Disney. Frozen was originally going to be hand-drawn before the higher-ups got cold feet, and I'll always maintain that movie would still have been massively successful in that format, because audiences did not fall in love with Frozen because it was computer animated. It was because they loved the songs, connected with the characters, and felt emotionally attached to the story. Thankfully, while Hollywood seems to have turned its back on producing more hand-drawn feature animation, there is not as much scarcity as you might think. Everyone is aware of the thriving animation industry in Japan, but the Irish studio Cartoon Saloon is also committed to making hand-drawn animation, with beautiful films like Song of the Sea and The Breadwinner. Other studios throughout Europe and South America also producing a decent amount of hand-drawn animation worth checking out. Netflix is even bankrolling a hand-drawn Christmas film called Klaus, directed by former Disney animator Sergio Pablos, and is set to premiere on their streaming service next year. So to go back to Micah's original question, yes, we probably would have gotten more hand-drawn animated films, likely in the adventure genre, had movies like Treasure Planet and Sinbad been successful. But that does not mean they're still not around. I even hold out hope Disney will return to the technique that produced Snow White and The Lion King at some point in the future. Thank you for your question.